Well, welcome again to another Shoflo Customer Spotlight webinar. I'm joined today with the one, the only Jon Wepking from MSUM. So what's up, Jon? And welcome to the Spotlight, dude.
What's up, Steven? It's a great day to be a dragon. It's a great day to be with you guys. Unfortunately, it is still snowing outside up
Oh
here in
my
Minnesota.
gosh.
So, we always talk about the weather. I mean, right? We got to start with that.
Dude, I'm here in Florida, Orlando, and it's 88 degrees and it's pleasant. It's
Yeah, there's some words that I can't say on live stream right now to you. So,
I've got shorts on under this and then sandals down below. So I'm very happy right now, very content.
sweet.
Dude, thank you for joining. And thanks to everybody who's out there joining in. Looks like we got about 60-ish people coming in. That's awesome. Just for people who aren't familiar, these are our customer spotlights. We're doing these, we've been doing these for years at Shoflo, but to be honest, with what's going on out there and just a lot of our friends, our peers, and then users for Shoflo as well too. Everybody's just kind of got a little bit of extra time, and we get that. We're sorry that that's happening. We believe events are coming back. We believe sports are coming back. But for right now, we've got a little extra time to be with families, and we're all thankful. But at the same time, we feel like it's a good opportunity for you guys to get to learn a little bit more about each other and how your peers or people from entirely other industries altogether might be using Shoflo. And so today, the example and the guest we brought on is Jon Wepking with Minnesota State University, Moorhead. And Jon, this is your Twitter, right? At Jon Webby. Is that kind of the
Yeah.
idea?
Yeah, it's what happens when you play basketball and they misspell your last name on your name tag. So instead of a P, it was a B.
There
And
you go.
everyone started to call me Weber, Webby, and it just stuck. My
Awesome.
boss was the AD at the time when I played. So it just stuck. And even to this day, it's still Webby.
Well, Webby, let's get rocking. I appreciate it, man. And hey, before we get going, we like to really dial these in. The basic agenda is we spend the first, 10, 15 minutes talking about Jon and the program there at Minnesota State, and then also understanding a little bit more about their culture. And then we jump into the software and we look at how they build scripts. So that's just basically the flow. But we like to kind of get an idea of who all is on the call. It's helpful for us because we want to be adaptive and fluid with the conversation. So with that, I'm going to launch a poll just to kind of get us off to a start. And if you guys don't mind, going ahead and selecting which part of the production workflow, or sorry, production industry you guys are in. Obviously, we have corporate events, and sports are large players in the Shoflo user database. But then also we even have esports and others as well too. And so excited to see a lot of these votes coming in. I'm going to give it 5 more seconds. Shui, 2, 1, and she done. Okay, cool. Let's share the results. Love it. So surprisingly, or not, loads of college and pro sports, which makes total sense. And then a couple of corporate event production. And then also you can see kind of live event broadcast and studio broadcasts. All right, cool, man. Well, one more I think that'll help us just in dialing this in is the role, right? Show caller, director. This just really helps us kind of understand, do we want to focus more on some functionality and features for those people who are calling the show, people who are just directing and calling the game, or the show. So take another 5 or 6 seconds on this one, and then we'll get rock rolling. Cool. 3, 2, Schwanskis, and we're done. And looks like primarily show caller. That's awesome. And then a couple directors. Well, that's it. Now we all know more about each other. That's awesome. All right, cool. I'm going to get us rocking. So Jon, talk to me. I like to start kind of in this sort of space right here, but just like, how in the heck did you even get into live events, production, and then specifically, like, how did your story bring you to where you are today over with the Dragons?
Sure. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I started as an architecture major with nothing to do with this whatsoever, as most of us might have in common. Transferred to Minnesota State University Moorhead as a sophomore to study film production and the art of film. Realized I wanted to teach film, so I got a teaching degree on my third major switch, which is history and psychology, and a film double major. So my thought was maybe to be a coach and a teacher someday. And I did not enjoy my student teaching experience. coach at the time offered me an opportunity to be an assistant basketball coach. Started there doing some video stuff for the team, video coordinator stuff, just operations basically. And coach got canned, I got canned. It's the way sports works. And they said, well, we like some of the things you did by building the Facebook page. And I started the Twitter handles at MSUM, both university and athletic. Yeah. And so that might date me a little bit, but we were behind the curve on that. And they moved me in the marketing office. And I've been there ever since. I was a GA for a year. Boss left for another opportunity. I was the only one who knew what was going on at the time. It was sports information and marketing. There was no production at that time. But I had worked for 4 years at NBC and CBS as my night gig here in Fargo. And Fargo, said that right. And so I had a bunch of TV background stuff. So when we got video boards and production equipment and broadcast gear, I knew how to run it all because I was in that world of TV. So I brought that and moved my position into marketing and production, where we do cool things like this, where we did a featured documentary on our women's basketball team's best season, which was completely student made. And that's the secret hidden power of our success. My role is marketing and production, put butts in the seats and make sure they come back, as well as put on a good show for the people whose butts are in their seats at home watching our broadcasts, as well as create some great social media and content on top of that. And basically with just me as doing a little bit of everything, I needed students. And so we created what we call our Go team. And they are about 30 students who run everything from stats to in-game signage, broadcast, photography, videography, operations, and building scripts. And we've won 15 NACMA awards in the past 5 years.
So cool.
3 sports video group honorable mentions, and a finalist for a collegiate award against the big Division I dogs. And so we've got a great reputation for differentiating ourselves in an engaging in-game environment, because we have NDSU Division I powerhouse in the FCS division. As far as like so many national champions of football, it's tough to deal with. So we had to differentiate ourselves. And what we decided to do was create a great in-game experience and broadcast with all of our video equipment, create a visual presence that made us different from our competitors. And Shoflo has been a piece of that since the begining.
When was that, by the way? Remind me, how long have you been rocking Shoflo?
So we've been rocking Shoflo. So we were TSC. I won't mention that out loud again.
Hey, you can mention them all day long.
Hey, man, it was a great.
Welcome them into the family. They're.
We switched before you guys brought them into the family.
There you go. There you go.
And just to go all digital, scripts and PA scripts and stuff, and all that printing and reprinting. We're small. I mean, we have moms and dads come up and say, "Hey, could you wish my kid a birthday?" Or, my AD wants to do something, a recognition that he forgot about, or someone's there that I didn't know. And so we need to be able to pivot and move quickly, and paper scripts weren't allowing us to do that. Another reason, I guess, why I do what I do and why I love what I do, not just what I do. I love my family. I'm a big family guy. There you see my daughter, Nora, on game day, and she is a celebrity. She comes out and mops the floor with me. She says hi before the women's game, and she knows every single one of the women's basketball players. She goes out there and she stretches with them. They're her babysitters when we don't have games, and it's just created great role models for her to look up to. The other day, one of our All-American cross-country runners stopped by and did sprints up and down the street with her. It's just a cool community vibe that we have at MSUM, and I do it, obviously to support my family, but I do it because there's great student athletes who are great role models for my daughter growing up.
Dude, she's absolutely just gorgeous, and that's awesome. I love that she's just like comfortable and confident walking right out to center court with you.
Oh, she's prom queening, waving at everybody. It's proud girl dad moment for sure.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Hey, real quick, I want to just do a reminder. JP Chat is our kind of webinar moderator for the chat and Q&A. So if anyone's got any questions for Jon, both about how he uses the software, Shoflo, routine day in and day out, week in and week out, but then also just about the culture of MSUM, or any just the how they approach game pres in general. Please go ahead and send those over, and then JP sends those for me to ask Jon directly, and we get to every one of those questions if we can. So please go ahead and have those sent over. Cool, dude. So, all right, you guys, I mean, I think what I was hearing from you earlier, and certainly already know is, yeah, you kind of touch like every facet of production, just based on the size of the school and the program. What you guys are doing to pull off even any level of that production value that you're aiming for. It doesn't come with like $1 million budget, that you get to just sort of throw around like it's Skittles. You actually have to be thoughtful. You personally have to play different roles. Like, talk about it. What is everything that you actually do?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the logos on the screen. I sell the sponsorships, and I have to fulfill those sponsorships. So I have to make sure that the PA script is right, the broadcast is right. I host shows. I try to stay out of it now. I try to get as many students to do the work as possible, just so they get the experience and learn and grow and create an educational opportunity for them. But I understand that we're also unique in the production side of things because we do everything in-house in the athletic department. Mm-hmm. It's not a comm department doing it for us. It's not an outsourced local media entity doing the production for us. It's our own gear. It's students that we've recruited across campus, and we've been fortunate to partner with film and comm, and so we're set up well for that. I mean, we really have a good setup of academic programs that feed our internship team. So I lead that team. Like I said, sponsorships, fulfillment, marketing, do the editing, grab cameras, obviously all the social media pieces, be the strategic person around most of our external facing pieces.
So you're actually selling the sponsorship, editing, or working with your interns to actually edit and produce these elements that are going on. And then during the game, you're calling the game, or are you DJ? What are the various things you do during the game?
Ideal game day, I'm gopher. Ideal game day, I'm one of the few people who know everything about everything. And so if something breaks or someone gets sick or someone doesn't show up, because that happens in our world, I'm the plug in and play guy. And if everybody's there and everybody's moving, hopefully I'm just giving people water and pizza and cleaning up messes so that people can do their job. So I'm ideally gopher on a game day, but in some instances, say our director was sick, and so I had to run up and I had to direct a TV game, which I haven't done in 6 years, and try to reteach myself a whole new system because it's been put in brand new since the last time I did a game. Which it was brutal, I'm not gonna lie, but sometimes I'm show caller for production and doing graphics at the same time. Sometimes I'm just sitting at the table, training, helping different individuals just understand what we do and why we do it, and get better at what they're doing, and getting feedback. So I'm also out there talking to the sponsors that are sponsoring that game, just to build those relationships, talking to our most loyal fans and season ticket holders, just to see how things are going, if we're missing something, if in all the hubbub of all the things that we're trying to do, are we really missing something? And so just having those oral surveys of everything that's going on, make sure my staff's running well. That's a typical game day. But you're right, behind the scenes, we're producing the scripts, we're producing the broadcast, and obviously once you get mid-season, you're hitting a pretty good rhythm. And Shoflo has allowed us to do that. And here you see our production facility for basketball. We are an NCAA Division II school. We do basketball, wrestling, football. We do track. We stream every single sport we possibly can. We have a mobile trailer that we've developed even to do things like golf. We do a little bit of everything. We're proud to say that we've live streamed every single home event for all sports for 3 years. And, I don't know a lot of schools that are taking on a project like that. And, the far left computer, you can't tell in this because it's part of a video we made for a 360 tour on our way out before COVID hit. But all of it's run from this facility. So we'll have a show flow there. Football facility is just behind us. There's a weight room separating us from where those people are sitting. And so we'll actually do a football game on TV running that outside. Instant replay for our officials is still downstairs. We could go on the field if we wanted to, but the league isn't there yet. And then we'll flip over and do a volleyball game immediately thereafter on television. And we'll just bring all the gear inside, join the game in progress after the football game's over, and televise a sport that doesn't get a whole lot of love because we buy the time and get to extend that to produce another game. So everything is run here. We're running a TriCaster 1, a 3-play 1. We have a new Blue Effects graphics system. That's a Midas 32-channel board for all of our, everything is right there for everything we need for a live broadcast.
How many operators do you have in the room here, crew-wise?
They'll be, depends on the event. So our director is a beast, and his name is Alex, and he can direct, he can run graphics and replay at the same time. And if I have the iPad connected to the mixer, he'll also run audio at the same time. So for a wrestling match, he can run everything by himself on that top row. For a football game, or a basketball game, it's a little bit faster paced. I'll probably have 3 people, graphics and music. I'll have 1 person on replay, and then Alex will be directing. And then on the front row there'll be 2 cameras cross shooting from up top for an in-game, for a game in our field house.
Cool. That was awesome, man. Well, let's, oh, good. We got a question come in. So this one's from Mark. And he's asking, do you offer scholarships for interns and students workers or are they paid? And we have a similar situation here at Texas State University. So that's Texas State there.
Yeah, so we don't do scholarships. We do work study, paid positions, and we just this year for the first time had to pay event workers. We were really hurting for production workers, and it's tuition's more than it ever has been. I get it. So we actually paid out of pocket, and it was cheaper than hiring professionals for sure. Because you're gonna have events like a game over Christmas break or Thanksgiving weekend that you're not going to be able to staff it all with students, and you got to hire maybe a couple camera operators or an ex-student who's freelancing to come back and run replay because they know your system. So for the most part, it's work study paid positions. There's some volunteers for internship credits throughout their programs for entertainment technology, operations, multimedia journalism, pieces like that. But mostly it's work study workers and a few paid workers, mostly work study.
Cool. Well, last question I had after, I'm a big film buff myself, but what's your favorite, when you used to teach film, what was your favorite movie you loved to show and kind of walk through the principles of? What was your favorite movie?
Oh man, I'm a classic junkie, so I like Wizard of Oz. It's a soft spot. It's one of my dad's favorites, so that's part of it. As sports people, we all love the sports teams. Usually, our parents love, or the exact opposite. The Wizard of Oz, just the history behind that, the transition between the book and the movie, the use of color. I'm not a big musical guy, but just the theatrics and the details were done so well. So it's just really kind of a cool time capsule of cinema. But I'm a Star Wars geek too, so I love that too.
There you go. I'll have to nerd out on that afterwards. Okay, cool. Well, let's switch gears, guys. We're gonna. Anyone who's got questions around specifically how Jon interacts with Shoflo, the software, how he builds game scripts, etc., inside of Shoflo, queue them up or send them on in, and again, we'll get to them as we go. And if you have additional questions around, their game presentation and philosophy and approach, send those over. We'll hit those towards the tail end as well too. But well, awesome. So, Jon, I'm looking at your team account in Shoflo, and you. So this remind everyone again. This is how many seasons have you put through Shoflo at this point combined? Not TSE, just Shoflo itself.
4 years.
Okay, cool.
4 years we've been doing Shoflo.
And then how many events? Sorry, how many sports are you running through Shoflo? I know you said all of them, but what is that? Is that like 7, 10?
A holistic. From beginning of event to end of event. We still use Shoflo just to get events started from a PA standpoint, just because it's easy to get a featured view and a script and edit and change that for different things. So, mostly every sport we use it to introduce and get started. but holistically, men's, women's basketball, volleyball, wrestling, and football, we use Shoflo entirely for. Plus special events, as you see in our queue there. We used to use it for our Dragons Live Coaches show, which was That Pose. It was a 30-minute show, and we just saw that viewership was declining. People weren't watching that long form format anymore, and so we crammed it down into a more social media vertical format show and used Shoflo to do that. Our awards banquet, we were going to run through Shoflo, so it's a little incomplete and because it got shut down because of COVID. So we'll walk through a couple of those here in a little bit. But there you see our last men's basketball game, playoff game against Wayne State College. And that was a cool one because we had our women playing on the road, and our television broadcast actually got permission to pull the away broadcast of our women, and we interjected live shots of the women's game during the men's game as a picture-in-picture thing during timeouts. And so it was a really cool, you could watch both games at once by watching our broadcast. So keeping everybody on tab to make sure that all works and works smoothly. Shoflo's kind of been at the heart of it for us for a long time.
Well, okay, so let me just kind of give orientation for some people. So if you're using Shoflo, great. If you haven't, in general, today we're going to observe how Jon and their team, really runs all of the major sports through Shoflo. They have a team account, and then from there they're creating different events. Looks like you guys actually do an event per game. And then it looks like you're using labels to actually differentiate whether it's a basketball game or potentially, I would assume if I go over to archived events, I might see wrestling in here, some other things. And yeah, I do. So yeah, you have football, wrestling. So I know that some people actually use the event to be the entire season of a particular sport. And then inside of that, they do different games for each particular script. Is there a particular philosophy you ride on that? Or is that just like when you first got into Shoflo, maybe we were guiding you to do it this way versus another?
No, we just did this. We watched webinars of what everybody else was doing and found out what worked best, simplest for us. I mean, it's students for us. So it's got to be simple. And so we took what I call a mutant, is we found what everybody else was doing, simplified it as much as we possibly could, used it for a few years, and it just kind of mutates. Every year it's different. I mean, if you looked at our scripts from last year, it would look completely different than what it does this year. Just because a PA guy said, hey, it would be really helpful if you put them all the PAs on a block for promos down here. It's like, oh, hey, we'll try it. He's like, oh yeah, this is way better. It's like, great, you're the person calling the show. This should work for you.
Exactly.
So, as people change, we get different input on the process, and it just evolves.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah. And again, these guys have been, Jon and his team have been in here for 4 years, so they really understand it. Okay. So we're going to take a look at what we've kind of labeled a webinar, but this was an event.
Yep.
And inside of this event, Jon's got really all of these blue. These are actually like game scripts, you might call, or your rundowns, And then you're actually using lists, which is fun. And some people use it, some people don't. But you guys are actually using the list functionality to really kind of bring additional document types into Shoflo, like your sponsorships and your promotions, et cetera. So we're going to walk through all these one at a time. I was thinking, Jon, let's start with the in-game script, and then we'll go to the broadcast. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Totally.
I'm going to go to your in-game script, and we can just kind of start with, Jon, just walk us around the basis. What am I looking at here? And why have you kind of laid it out this particular way?
Because it's not quite chronological. So the pregame stuff, doors open. So it's color-coded. You're going to see the things that we have to do for our league early to get them done and out of the way. But purple is a promo. Those are things that promote what we're doing and what we're offering. They're different colors based on timeliness and how we have to change them. The dark purple is something like the podcast. I have to update that as we change the episodes. Green is sponsorships, because that makes us money. The different colors are the same thing, things that change and things that stay the same. So the lighter the color, the more permanent it is. The darker and more bold means we have to change it, like an opponent. Yellow's things we have to change each and every game. So it's still chronological up until this point. So you have your anthem, your visiting lineup. Our open video is pink on the video board. It just pops off there. just so you see that video element coming in. And then you do our home lineups and officials and an audio cut before our men's game. And then we're into timeouts and gameplay. So once we're on your feet and playing some Dragon basketball, we're waiting for timeouts. And this is a chronological order. And the nice part about having separate games philosophically is that we can change the order of these sponsor readers so that you're not reading the same 4 or 5, and then you don't get to the last 4. I mean, those sponsors aren't going to feel very good. So it allows us to randomize a little bit each and every game so that we can make sure that the rotation of those reads gets done every single game. And, some want to be first half, some want to be second. They all get read. And that's why we don't have any promos promoting our stuff in there at that point. They all get read. And then we get into media timeouts. We have a 3 media timeout structure for basketball. And these are our experiential pieces. We have a Rustica, best seats in the house to start. Blue is band, BB. I love little alliterations. So there's the band you see there, and mascots on the floor for a race, a sponsor recognition, reader for the PA, and then the halftime is pretty straightforward. Bunch of different promotions we're doing to entertain our fans. That was a busy one. We have a sweet 9-foot ladder golf that I made out of PVC pipe and basketballs that I tied together with rope. That's pretty epic. So that's my ladder golf game. People freaking love that thing, dude. And then our half-court hero for Buffalo Wild Wings. And then we ended with an award recognition for our academic achievements for student athletes. And those are dark and striking right there. So with pronunciations. And that's the nice part about Shoflo. I mean, if you've got a name in there at all, in wrestling lineups too, if you find out your pronunciation is wrong when you talk to the person, you can just go in here and edit it quick. Yes, you can scribble on a piece of paper. That's true. But it's nice to be able just to pop that in there quick to make sure that we're not offending anybody by getting the pronunciations wrong. Big taboo for PA.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I love it. I mean, I think I love that you guys have used color. We see that a lot. And again, for teams that are curious, that's basically just coming into your little cogwheel, finding your global highlight, and then marking that appropriately. So it's pretty easy to kind of make those changes and sort of define that. And in general, we find that using color helps both, the show caller or game director, Jon, but also like the crew, if you have it up on a big monitor, which I think, Jon, you guys in the control room have it up on a big 50-inch screen, it just allows them to visually see up there and go, okay, I see purple or I see green. That means something's coming up before they even have to hear Jon or the game caller actually call it out on comm. So then, Jon, I'm noticing you guys basically don't use times at all, like time of day. You don't use durations. Walk me through that. Where's time? You live outside of time? Is that how it works?
There's time in the pregame. So not in this one, but more for football. Okay. I mean, there's a clock that hits 0. When the clock hits 0, we start our pregame in a basketball environment. So you don't really need, this is happening then. And we've got a PA guy that knows this stuff. At football, not so much. If you don't hit that right on time, in pregame rundowns, you don't have that clock at 0 moment. You kick off at 0. And so there's some stuff in football that is timed out. But as far as time stamping, it's nice to have that proof of performance for some sponsors who are really adamant about seeing when and where this ran and this ran. We also have our sponsors just really didn't find that as valuable as I was hoping. And so we just don't use it. I mean, it's just trying to keep it as simple as possible for the people who have to fulfill and make it happen. If something doesn't happen, I have an operations person who is basically just a watchful eye and making sure that, okay, we didn't read this PA during this game. We have to make that good and read it twice in the next game. And that rarely doesn't happen. I mean, we've got it dialed into the point where we don't oversell. And it's very rare that we get to a point where those sponsorship reads don't get read. And so we just haven't done those kinds of things. And it bites us sometimes, but hey, we're not on ESPN. We're doing our own broadcast, and we can take a few risks and and be a little bit more adventurous with some of these things. And if we screw up, we screw up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move
Sometimes
on.
there's something sweet about that. Like you've got your own audience that you understand, you're responsible for, but you don't necessarily have all the pressures of the larger networks and things.
The key is just keep it simple for the execution. Just
Yeah.
keep it simple for our staff, students, pet band who's run by students. Just keep it as simple as possible to execute.
Well, hey, I want to hit a couple of the different roles of people during the game that are actually interacting with Shoflo. So I think if I heard you right when we were discussing ahead of time, you guys have basically been able to get it to where you almost print nothing.
We don't print anything.
Awesome.
We don't print anything. We use the app in the lists for our promotions team. Our photographers, our videographers are all using lists because it's pretty simple. I need video of like 4 things, 5 things during an event. Same thing with photo. The things that I need and request. As far as promotions, 3 media timeouts before, halftime, 3 media timeouts after, that's your gig. So the list breaks that down really nice and easy for those operators. And for the script and PA, he's just got a Mac sitting right by his microphone, and that's it. We don't print anything.
Does the PA use a featured view, or which view does he use? Okay,
yep, our PA uses a featured view. Our talent, once we get to the broadcast, uses featured view. To just see that, and they can adjust the text size based on how well their eyes work at their age. And we have I use a little prompter for our shows. So like I cut that little mini DL recap show, Dragons Live recap, and we use a prompter above a camera. We have a DJI Osmo Pocket, a nice little camera, has a microphone input, works great for vertical format. I have the prompter sitting right up there and a magic mouse, and I just scroll to the next thing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dragons Live Recap. I'm your host, Jon Wepking. On today's show, we got this, and this. Let's go. Animation, next block, and you just go through each and every piece. And so the prompter has been a savior in being able to do that simply and easily. And we used it for our longer form shows as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, and just for perspective for anyone who's joining, there's multiple views in Shoflo. So we traditionally, you might say like the game script or the rundown would kind of be more of a table-based view. And this is what, anyone on your team or any users you bring in to Shoflo can view. You can then go to what we call the featured view, which is what we were just looking at. And that really lets you choose one in particular column and then really kind of feature it. Go figure, featured view. And then you can still make edits if you're the right PA read. So this is really a good design for people who have a PA reader. And then we have the next one, which is prompter view, which you can get to right here, or you can kind of go to prompter view. And the idea is very similar to featured view, but even larger. It allows you to choose which column you want. So I'm choosing to be in the PA script. You can then control your text size, your line heights. But then you can kind of create a little bit more of that full-on prompter type experience where you can kind of create an active scroll, things of that nature, et cetera. So that's a little bit of what he was talking about there when he was talking about.
Yeah, and I came from TV, so this is identical to what we did in TV for prompting. Yeah. And so it was great to add this feature in. And then the display view we put up on the big screens within the production area so that everybody can see what's going on and when.
Oh, nice. You use display view? Nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks sweet, man.
All the views. You might have just unlocked, I don't know, some secret Shoflo t-shirt because you're the first one I know that's using all of the views.
Yeah, so, the whole crew doesn't need to see every column, but it's just nice to see the items and, maybe, the graphic or something. Typically, I'll put up in the broadcast because I'm running graphics. Usually, I'll put up graphics for my own sake because sometimes I get stuck watching the game. It's like, oh, crap, what's my next one? Right. So that's more for my sake, but just to see the items, just to know what's going on a bigger format. So yes, we do use display view and it looks great on a big screen.
Yeah, well, that's what it was designed for. Go figure.
Yeah, man.
Okay, cool. Well, so again, any questions come in? One that came in from Mark. Do you do a review of the script before an event with the video production crew? And when do you do that?
Yeah, we do. We go through the entire script. Pretty basically. Once you hit the rhythm and you have a staff that knows what they're doing, yeah, we probably skip that. But when we're in our broadcast piece, it's part of our pregame checklist. before we even, do color bars with our TV station. There's just a pregame checklist of making sure this works and this is set up and that's set up. So no, not in the middle of the year. If there's new people, yes, we'll go through and train them. And we use Shoflo to walk them through everything, just so they can see what they're going to be seeing and need to see during the broadcast.
Now, are you inviting any of your students, or are you inviting them into Shoflo as user accounts, or do you just have them observe what's going up on the big screen, on the large monitor?
Mostly just observe. Our promotions, yes, for in-game, and photographers, videographers, yes, because they don't need to see everything. But for the most part, we have iPads that sit right next to everybody, little iPad minis that we're going to get cycled out from our IT that we just absorbed, and little iPad stands. And so they're all right there, and they go with the show caller. So they're all on the same thing. So like here's a great use of our lists. So our promotions person, David, he's fantastic. He just pulls up this list and he knows, during the media timeout structure, what's the game, who's the sponsor, what prize do I need to prepare and get ready, and what does the non-winner get, because we want to make sure everybody gets something for participating and they still feel like a winner. And so everybody gets something, and then just some simple notes, just making sure that one of the balls is signed, because sometimes we forget stuff when we're in a hurry, and different bits and pieces. This one was at the end of the year. It was kind of thrown together quickly, so don't hold me to my strategy too hard, because he knew what we were doing just by simply seeing the game. And there you see it mimic what you saw in game during the in-game script as well.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll just make the case here real quick for people that are curious. So just like in Shoflo's standard game rundown, like the script that you're more used to, little moves in every move in Shoflo is real time. So if you were to do like a global highlight, if you were to move an element up and down, if you were to change the text of something and say, what's up? All of that stuff is going to pass through in real time. So there's not only just the format of building it in something that looks like a script or looks like a promo, but one of the reasons you might look at doing what Jon and his team have done, which is to bring more of those additional documents, even those quick little tables or spreadsheets, bringing them into Shoflows. The benefit of that is because they all are housed under the event, right? This project of the MBB versus Wayne webinars, this game. And then this game has inside of it its own amount of lists, its files. You can actually upload files into Shoflo, or it's got the script. And then when you invite in your students, if you were to invite in your students or your crew, when they come in, you can give access to certain people to have only access to this one event, or you can give them team-wide access, which means they can help you work on multiple events at one time. But again, the idea here is that moving more of them in, we're trying to abandon the workflow of Excel, saving a local version, attaching it to an email, and then sending it out. And then one more note, and then someone's got a good question I want to get to, which is you guys, I think, Jon, you were talking about Guest Pass a little bit. So how are you guys using Guest Pass, and who are you sending that to specifically?
The Guest Pass we use for the pet band. They don't really need to see the script, the buttons, the music. They just need to see when they're up. And so this game was pretty packed. I don't remember if they were in this one or not. I think they maybe been in the second or third media timeout. Yeah. So yeah, blue. So there you see blue for a pet band. We had a lot going on this night for a playoff game. We didn't get to them a whole heck of a lot in game. And so just to let them know the structured pieces when they're up so they can be prepared and be on their feet and ready to go. Yeah. And my athletic director. So he knows when he has to do the sponsor recognition and shake hands and kiss babies in the middle of the floor.
Right.
So he needs to know that kind of information. And just if we do things like drawings and there's somebody working the table collecting signatures, when do they need to get my name over to our promotions people so that they can read it during the game. And we made it small and simple so it fits on a phone really nice and easily. And it's just not overcomplicated. We keep the item number just to say, hey, we're at 20, right. So everybody knows that just quickly we can jump in rather than saying, hey, we're at the open. Well, where's that? You got to scroll around. The item number helps out in that a little bit. So our AD, our sponsor too sometimes, just so they know when they got to be up there and talking, and then
Yep.
our pet band for the guest passes. And I saw the other question about the learning curve for students. It's easy. They take to this super quick. It's they're building faster than I can train them. The second they get in there, it's pretty intuitive. So for students, even making the overall script, because we've been in a rhythm, and it takes some time to build out what works for you. I mean, that will take time in massaging and mutating it to what works best for you. But once you kind of have that structure in place of how you want the game to operate, they can come in and use it very quickly.
Well, and I'm glad you got to that question, and that was from Leslie. So thank you, Leslie. A good question. So John, on that space, are you giving your students the opportunity, like the role of building out the scripts, or is that something you're still reserving for yourself?
No, they're building it out.
Oh,
They're producing their, so some individuals are producing the Dragons Live recap show. So those students have access to that one, but not necessarily building the full game. So the full game has a couple of students who have access to do that and change. So they look up who's the sponsor of the game. They change those readers. They mix around the PAs for sponsorships. They update the opposing team names, the what's coming up next kind of things. And so, yes, students did every script this year. I didn't.
that's awesome.
I mean, I'll go in and poke around to make sure they're getting it done,
Yeah,
and not waiting maybe until game day. But honestly, I had a kid get sick, not really check in with me, didn't do anything, and I completely updated a script in under 30 minutes.
that's
Um,
awesome.
well, when you have the structure there, it's easy. When
Yeah.
you have the elements there and you know what needs to get changed, it can happen in an instant. And so, we can go from one game to another and completely update everything. And Global Elements makes that a ton easier now that I can just hit one button and update everything everywhere. If we missed something for a sponsor, or we missed another thing, it's just really easy to do that in a Global Element now.
I want to come back to Global Elements because that's a really good. I think you guys use it in a very effective way. Before I do that, I want to do that demonstration you and I were playing with on the front end. So you guys have a script that you do. You break out the broadcast. So let me see if I get this right, John, and then really you tell me. But you guys actually run two different show flows during your game. You've got the broadcast one for your audience, and then you've got the one that's more of the in-game for the PA reads and things like that. Yeah, kind of break that down. What is that?
You nailed it. You nailed it. It's about the audience. And so
Yeah.
we're making a show for two different audiences, one who's in venue and one who's sitting at home. And
Yep.
the experience is different. And so that's our philosophy on it. I mean, everything game day is in Shoflo. If there's a question about game day, did you check Shoflo? It's in there.
Right.
But for our philosophy is the show should be focused on the audience. And so the in-game focuses on the in-venue audience. The broadcast, as this one shows, focuses on the audience at home.
So I'm going to hit play and you can maybe walk us through it because it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
We'll play it at double speed, I think. Yeah, it's going really fast. So which item?
So right now we're in the countdown. So we've done all of our pregame. We've done our color bars. We've fired up all of our cameras, got everything connected, double checked that all of our crew here. And if you go up just a little bit, you'll see roll countdown. And I think like 10.
Yeah. 10.
Up.
There you go. Double check your.
Stop. 15.
You're behind me. Okay, keep going.
So at 15, you'll see roll countdown, and then we'll have our start of the show, which is this is our lead-in introduction. 16. So 16 is roll countdown, which you started with. Color bars before that. Start the pregame show. Here's our Go Team Productions animation. Here's the video open. Now we keep going down to 20. Here is, keep going. I don't know if I'm laggy. There we go. Maybe I should have show called this one. There was the matchup graphic with the two teams coming in here. Now here's our talent intro in blue. Here's Steve and Jared, and they're here talking. So I know that lower third was my graphic, which you're seeing in the graphics column. The next thing I know that's going to happen is players to watch. So they're going to talk a little bit about the history of this matchup, and then they're going to turn to the monitors and do their Mat Bus players to watch. And so they have a monitor sitting right behind them. That'll be the next thing you see. They'll introduce our sideline reporter next. And I know that as in my graphics, I have a lower third. I know my audio needs to make sure that talent is up. And, during this piece here, talent and music. Okay, so I need to swell up that music. My director in the production knows it's on key 3. And at the end of that, you see in the talent column on the right-hand side, so the talent actually has Shoflo on a computer right in front of him. And this guy, I'm telling you, is the least tech-savvy person you will ever meet in your life, ever. And he can pull up featured view and just see what he needs to read in the talent piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super simple for him. And so just to have that, the next thing he needs to read is right in front of him at all times. He doesn't need to touch anything. He doesn't even have to flip a page. He doesn't have to look through a sheet on the wall. It's just on the computer. And so now we're at start of game and we're in game. And that's where I think number 25 is. Score bar comes in, talent's going, audio operator knows to pull the NAT sounds up. And basically the first thing you're going to see is your starters. We have some sponsorship snipes, just a little graphic that pops out of our score bar, where those are at for the director and what key. And, I even have a note to ignore that. If we're on that for the team, for the talent column, that sponsor snipe for Chuck's bus service, we know that, he knows to just ignore me. So it's just a really easy way, because now we're in game. It's just, okay, that yellow is our next timeout. We're going to go to break and we're going to come back with a sponsor billboard. And that'll just be a nice big graphic. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. He has the reader sitting right in front of him. Everybody knows what we're doing coming back from break. Nobody is left off knowing what's going on and what's not going on. And so the whole broadcast is done in here. And depending on your role, just hide the other columns. Mm-hmm. So if I'm doing graphics and audio, all those other ones are hidden. And I'm just looking at a 2-3 column show that tells me everything that I need to do. And so it's really easy for all of us to do that.
Yeah, I wanted to make that point, John, that you can comfortably build a lot of columns in Shoflo, because every individual user that in reorder columns, really create a view that's like dialed in around their role. And it also like appropriately collapses the row heights down. So just FYI, while you can look at so many columns and be like, oh my gosh, I can't keep track of it all. That's really just for John as the creator or as the script builder, but ultimately each role is gonna filter those columns down to exactly what they need. Dude, that was awesome, man. That was fun. We haven't ever done that before, where we kind of get to see you almost called your game broadcast right there live. So that was kind of cool. Hey, another good question came out, and I wanted to ask it before we got too far away with it, and then we'll go back over to Global Elements here in a second. Since you rely so heavily on students, how do you deal with crew availability? Do you have a certain number that you can rely on more often, and how much of a rotation do you have to bring in the newer crew members next? And that's from David Gonzalez.
Yeah, well, treat it like a sport. It's like football. Someone gets hurt, you got to have some depth. For a production crew, we typically have about 6 people between 4 camera operators and 2 or 3 people upstairs, so it could be 7. And we need to make sure that we're at least 2 deep, if not 3 deep, in that rotation. So literally we have a 2 deep sheet of workers and what they're trained in. And if you're that second or third person and you might not be on shift that night, we'll still bring you in to cross train on different things. And typically the students themselves, because it's a learning opportunity, they'll say, hey, I'm cool with cameras. I just want to learn cameras. I'm just new cameras. It's cool. Some of them might say, hey, I'd really like to try replay. Great. I see you're not on the schedule tomorrow or next week. What do you think about coming in and training and sitting over the shoulder of someone and getting some time on training? And so we just try to make sure that we create a great depth of workers. And that's where we started to get scared. And when we knew there was a problem is because when we saw that we were 1 deep in some positions and 2 deep at best in others, that's when we really knew that we needed to make a shift in how we compensated the workers. And the second we added compensation, we had to, 4 kids quit because they needed to get a job to pay for school. And so we instantly reached out to those kids who were already trained and said, hey, we're going to pay now. They're like, cool, we're in. Yeah. And so we hired 4 people immediately, brought our depth back, and finished the year strong. So mid-year, we made that change just because we saw some students dropping in some of our depth. And so it really helped to have that depth chart to make that decision.
And where are you sourcing a lot of these internships from? Are you, or students from, are you marketing inside of like the video or the film and production programs?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We're pounding the pavement during Welcome Week, hiring interns. We have 3 things we talk about at Welcome Week: get our app to know what's going on, sign up for rewards so that you can get rewarded for going to games, and all of them are free, and join the Go team. I mean,
Yeah.
those are our 3 messages for everything like that. We're recruiting as they're coming in. We have some curriculum that's tied to it. So in the production, in the fall, there's a live sports audio video production that does all of our sporting events, and this is the lab for them. And so they have to work 5 events, and it's more of a training piece. Most of the time they're sitting behind the scenes and not actually in it, but it helps us kind of find good talent as well. Talking to classes, I guess speak at classes all over the place in comm and film and whatever I need to do to tell them what we're doing, why we're doing it. We market, we promote just like a sport. So we try to get out there as much as we possibly can. And we have interns who are specifically designed to promote and hire and recruit new Go team members.
Cool. I mean, you got to have a pipeline, just
Yeah.
like you probably have a whole pipeline of how you're cultivating, different sponsorship. You got to have the same thing for staffing your crew. So, well, hey, there's another question or two I want to hit, and then, but then first I want to talk about global elements. I think it's a helpful thing for teams that are considering either using global elements and already are using Shoflo, or just in general. So with global elements, that's basically the idea here is you can build out like you do, your game row by row by row, but in particular with sports, you have a lot of repeating elements game to game. And so, John, if I'm correct, I think you guys are using global elements, right? Yeah, it looks like you are for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So it's a little straighter, just a conversation going. But you can kind of see here global elements. If I was to type in one, I could either type directly to the element, I could filter and be like, hey, I'm looking for a graphic element. Or you could say I'm looking for, something that's more of a commercial or whatever it might be. It looks like billboard. Nope. Which ones do you have? Interview? Nope. Well, let's go back.
Yeah, you're in a lot of the broadcast ones there.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Gotcha.
It took us a while to figure out what that was looking like. But, something like, Buffalo Wild Wings wants to change their message. And we've built out a couple of games. I update it once, hit save all, and it's updated in every single script. We have a Friday sponsor and a Saturday sponsor because we play weekend double headers. And so I have 2 games on Friday, and I have a Friday sponsor that sponsors both games. And so I just update their reader one time and hit save all, and it ripples through the entire script. It's just super handy.
Yeah, I'll demonstrate it real quick. So this is global elements Z. So this was the global element. We inserted the same element twice. And what's cool about Shoflo is that you can actually have a different, while you can insert the same global element, you can adapt it on a per game basis. But ultimately, if John or you, if your team runs a particular element and you go, you know what, I really like the way I ran that this time. I thought that was really, really helpful. You could then come in here and actually publish. You could update all of the elements across all your scripts to reflect the version that you just recently ran. And so you do that by hitting publish current version everywhere. We'll actually let you know which games that element is currently located in. Right now, we just have it in kind of 2 different places, which is the manager of all of the elements, which we call the global element manager, and then the local game. But if you use one of his other elements, you might see that it's a part of 5 or 6 running games. Mm-hmm. But either way, if I hit publish changes, we're going to process that, and then you'll see it updated the second element automatically. So a really technically nuanced bit of functionality inside of Shoflo, but honestly, once you fully adopt it, can be a massive workflow shift. So anybody on the call is interested in learning more about global elements, make sure you come over to Shoflo and we can set up a call and actually walk you through that more specifically.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that takes a show setup in time in half.
Yeah,
and it's accurate. I think it triples the accuracy, but it cuts the setup time in half just to be able to hit that button and go.
Awesome, man. Well, okay. So, final thoughts, I think, before we kind of wrap for the day. Um, I just want to say it. I think you guys are all in, and I love seeing that. You don't have to always go all in, but someone who's been doing Shoflo for a couple of years, you can hear from Jon and just the way he's kind of encouraged his team to jump in the pit. The fact that you've got students building out rundowns, like, first of all, that makes me so happy because I think that's you're really encouraging the next generation of people who are going to be producing games to think differently than the last generation. So I love that. Whether they're using Shoflo or Google Sheets, I really don't care. Well, I care, but it's more about not doing it the same way that it's been done for years. So I love that. The fact that you guys are just all in on terms of like colors and have really adopted this philosophy of a no print kind of concept. I just want to say for anyone who's on the call, you can print. Jon is like our poster child, but we're not necessarily saying that that's the only way to do it. It's often the case that you do have a PA who needs a little bit more, needs you to meet him in the middle. So maybe you're giving him featured view, but then you're also still going to and doing like a Word export, which you can do in Shoflo. You can get it to Word, you can get it out to XLS, and then you can get it out to PDF, which is cool as well too. So just wanted more so for clarity on those purposes. It's very possible to do that. I love, Jon, that you're all in on the display view, which is great. Again, the reminder there is that the display view is really about, let's see if I can get it up. Boom. That's really about trying to put it on one of the larger monitors. And you can see it when you actually go to that view. The design of it is less about interacting with a wide range of features. And it's more about just kind of set it, forget it, and hit tracking on. And then it will just automatically scroll from element to element as Jon or whoever he's identified as the show caller advances throughout the game script. And so that's the nuance of that view, but it's a very effective view. And it's another way to kind of let 6 or 7 people in the room kind of have their hands focused on their job, whether it's mixing the front of house console or doing graphics, and they can just look up at the large monitor and be like, oh, cool, we're in item 7. The next item is a PA read. That's a good reminder. Let me go, get that, et cetera. So.
Yeah, and it's great for training. So when you have new people, new kids, a class come in, we have high school classes come and watch what we do.
That's cool.
And they'll come in and they'll just sit behind us and watch how we do things. And so if I'm Gopher, I'm sitting there telling them, okay, here's what this guy's doing, what this guy's doing. You can look up here and you can see what's next. Yep. And so it's nice to train our staff. It's nice to bring outside entities in and take a look, but it's just nice to have that big view and share that easily and simply. I mean, if you saw the whole thing as someone who'd never done this before, you'd get a little overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And so just to be able to simplify it, dumb it down, and showcase, train, communicate effectively, that display view has really, really helped in doing that in that room.
And then we've heard Jon talk about featured view, and featured view again is a view that's.
Oh, I'll add one more thing. I actually pull up display view in our intern office, so that's where our mascot takes a break. So they go into the office because it's got a fridge and water, and he's just taking a load off, and he can see when he's coming up next. And so he knows to suit up. It's like, okay, I got halftime coming up. Let's go, and he can go out there and do his thing straight from our office.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people will take display view, have a dedicated laptop to display view, and then do an HDMI out of that and convert it, get it into your control room system, because then you can route it around to various parts. So you could send it to, apparently, the refrigerator or wherever the beer, beer cooler is. But it could, or it could go to a sponsor's, box, suite or something like that if you needed to. It's really flexible in terms of where you could put it, which is cool once you get it into the control room. And then we did hear Jon talk about featured view today, and featured view is again where that PA read would sit there and actually be able to go in and out, make edits, be able to type stuff and annotate the script however he wants. And then ultimately he's just selecting from row to row and reading his script, or he can actually turn on show caller tracking and follow Jon or whoever's calling the game as they advance from element to element. And then the final one I want to mention is that, Jon does generate what we call a guest pass, and that guest pass is a really cool way of just getting a link. Everything we've looked at for the most part today, you do have to be a user in Shoflo. You need to like log in and actually be given a credential. But the guest pass really allows you to text this thing around, email it around, do whatever you want to do, and you can control what they see in terms of columns. And they don't have to be a logged in user or anything like that. So it's a nice way to get the game script out to a wider range of viewers that maybe would benefit from seeing the script, but don't necessarily need to be a full-on user in Shoflo.
And a quick pro tip is we create a vanity URL, so msumdragons.com/go1.
Yeah.
And so they know to use that URL in the pet band or my AD, so that I just take that link and I put it there, and they know to go to msumdragons.com/go, and that's going to be that event's next script. And so
cool.
It's just an easier way, a more portable way. It's like, what was that URL? Can I find that email? No, there's a URL. Go there. You're good.
I mean, you don't want to use this like fugly looking long ass URL here.
I try to get them to get the app, but app real estate's apparently in high demand.
Question came in last second here from Ryan, and I'll take this one. Does Shoflo support external teleprompter controllers? It sure does, Ryan. Stick around on towards the end, and I'll specifically point you to where you can learn about that. Till then, real quick, everybody who's on, we're gonna feel free to stick around for another question or two, but thank you for joining. If you have questions or if you want to reach out to Jon specifically, reminder that you can get Jon at your Twitter is Jon Webby, at Jon Webby. And then also in addition to that, you can go to shoflo.tv under resources, webinars. And this is where we will be uploading Jon's webinar for today. If you want to share that with other people in your team, or just want to, we're too busy watching the other 3 webinars going on at the same time right now. So we will be having this uploaded here by the end of the week. And then also this is where our upcoming webinars can be found here, or other ones that we've already done before. We did one also with LSU, which could be interesting for anyone on the call, again, focused on collegiate. That was one that we've already done and could be good for you there. With that, I really appreciate everybody's questions. I'm really just enjoying it. And Jon, dude, you're the man. I think you've done an amazing job building the infrastructure there for a healthy program where students can come in and learn. And at the same time, though, you're actually delivering a broadcast, you're delivering an in-game experience for various audiences. And so just the fact that you're using Shoflo and we can be a part of that, we're proud to be a part of it, and that's awesome, dude. But just
thanks for the opportunity and the product. We've loved it ever since we've had it, in simplifying what we do and communicating what we do, and just making it super easy to edit and work with. Thank you for creating a good product. Thanks for everybody joining today. Like you said, if you want to follow up with me, want to just jump on a call, and I'll walk you through a couple other things like our shows, our small social media shows, or our awards banquet, which we were planning with Shoflo until it got shut down. If you want anything more on those, just give me a shout, and be happy to go through it with you.
Cool. Yeah, and something we've been doing, anyone who's on the call is curious about trying to use Shoflo. Obviously, during this period of time, come on in. We'll just create a sandbox event for you, let you play and let you learn. No requirements to, anything on that, and any commitments. Come on in and learn. And Jon, I'm sure you'd be friendly and available for it. But we'd be happy to load up with maybe like a neutral template of what Jon uses as well, so you can kind of explore with some of his scripts. And so that could be fun.
For sure.
Cool, guys. Well, thanks, Jon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you to everyone on the webinar. And we enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.